Good evening. I'm doing a stand-in talk with some of my friends behind me because it got dark and I didn't have a chance to speak. And I think it's important for us to speak, all of us to think about where we stand in America right now. Some describe Trump as a clown show. Another colleague of mine, another lawyer, a respected prosecutor, was saying that he thought the trial, the federal trial in D.C., headed up by Judge Chutkan, that should be public. I would normally say that it should be open, even though historically federal trials are not shown publicly. So why would I be against that? Because our judges and our lawyers don't seem to understand how to ask questions, don't understand how to fight in a courtroom itself, which is not Trump's natural ground, although some say it is. What is natural to Trump is to bully his way in any circumstance and to coerce a path for himself to sing forth his message, which is don't trust those communists, don't trust those Marxists, don't trust those socialists, don't trust those left. And when I get to be president, I'm going to take care of them, and they are vermin. These are the words of a dictator. These are the words of a past historic maniac, almost pure evil. And from that point to this, I don't know that we've had anybody comparable. Not Mussolini, not a variety of other people. There's Hitler. Hitler is the standout. And I know for many people it's a sensitive subject to compare anything that's going on now with Hitler. But it's appropriate. Also, we know that he kept Hitler's speeches by his bedside from his former wife. He said that. Now, I have sitting behind me a model of JFK. When I was a freshman in high school at Fordham Prep, which was on the university campus, I saw all the students going into a gymnasium. And I didn't know why. And I had time before my Latin class. And so I followed them, and they were all taller than me, and I elbowed my way in. And when I got in, there was a large Klieg light going across the full gymnasium. And at this right-hand side of it, I could see through these university students, there were no prepsters there, that the man speaking was a young senator from Massachusetts. He was running for president, and he was talking to an assembly of first-generation college, Irish, Italian, Polish, and so forth. And he was talking to their dreams and aspirations. He was talking of a new frontier. He was talking of our role. Do something. Make things better. Serve publicly. And he said it in his acceptance when he was declared the President of the United States and was inaugurated. Ask not what you can do for yourself, but what you can do for your country. So I went back to my high school class in kind of a reverie. And before that point, I had carried literature around for a couple of people, but I was sold. I was sold on the idea of what is American, what is a democracy, what is a republic. And I'd read all the things about the Irish. And we lived in a not so hot neighborhood, but we didn't know any better. And the people I knew didn't go past high school. But I was a perverse child, and I loved the opportunities I had. And I saw Republicans and Democrats that would help us all, bring us along. And so there was a positive feeling in the normalcy period, if you will, after World War II when Eisenhower was president. But there's been another strain in America, and Trump has taken it to an exaggerated place, on steroids, if you will, steroids of pain and backward and bad thinking. It was no less than Hamilton who thought a monarchy is better than a democracy. And you'll notice in our early institutions, democracy was a smaller fraction of our structure. But over the years, more and more people got the franchise, got the vote, and so forth. And the Republicans, at one point, vied fairly for the support of voters, but now they can't because they're so extreme. And they've taken up all these positions, and they've taken up positions that are of hate and of division. And they don't seem to care that it doesn't work. In fact, in Ohio, in recent days, after Ohio passed a constitutional resolution that would make it safe to have an abortion, that the legislature is talking against the voters and how they're going to defeat that from being implemented. So in other words, the abuse of control of a woman's body is and endorsed just days ago by the people of Ohio. They seek to override it by those who think otherwise in the minority, in the representative government, claiming that they're in the right. They're going to write the Judiciary Act so that there is no remedy for a violation of this constitutional amendment. Now, I hate to narrow it down this way, because what we do is we have an array of things. So we have Trump standing at the pyramid of this insanity to destroy our democracy, to destroy our republic, and to take it over because there's no other way that they can control the United States. And they're trying to create a power vacuum. And how are they doing that? They're beating the living daylights out of Biden. Is it taking? I don't know. Some polls may indicate that it is. But Biden is a champion for our democracy and for our republic. And while we may disagree on some issues, he is an American president. Whereas Trump is a wannabe dictator, interloper, who seeks to intervene and compromise and destroy all that's good in America in a mirror that looks like a modern-day Hitler. Yes, I compare him to Hitler. I know that's a sensitive comparison, but there is between Hitler and Trump no comparable person who has the initiative to destroy that Trump does, who has put together an organization in America, unlike other movements in America, that could destroy America. So he points his pudgy finger and his chubby body at us, and he tells us that not to trust the socialists and the Marxists, and don't you trust those lefties. And when I get in power, I'm going to go after that vermin with the Justice Department. That's not America. From the days when I first listened to Jack Kennedy, I've had great opportunities to listen to significant leaders in this nation. Our heroes, when I was young, were killed. First Jack Kennedy, Martin Luther King, Bobby Kennedy. Other people were compromised. And if any of you have had the chance and have gone to one of those sacred places in Germany, I went to Dachau in 1969. And it was fairly insulated. There was hardly anybody there. But I can still see the metal words over the gate into the place, Arbeit macht frei. Work makes freedom. Yes, freedom by death. We have had presidential candidates who understood the scourge of discrimination and hate as a vehicle to get power. But the power in America is the ability to vote, the ability to participate, to have access to your government, to have input into its policies, to be treated equally, and that no one is above the law, although that is not what's happening in America now. There was a commentator, a former prosecutor, and I respect him. And he said, and I understand why he said it, he said that he thinks we should have cameras in the courtroom in the U.S. District Court before Judge Chutkan, who has the case against Trump. I might agree with him, except for the fact that I saw how Trump went to town in a courtroom attacking the judge, it was a civil case, so it's the prosecutor, the attorney general. I didn't see how the lawyer for the attorney general questioned him, but that man got away with murder. If you or I were ever in a courtroom and did anything like that, we would be told to shut up and stop it and just answer the questions asked and offer no more. And if we didn't do it, we'd be held in contempt. There'd be fines. If you were worse enough, then you would be told, I think you should sit in jail tonight and maybe tomorrow. It'll save you a commute. You won't have to inconvenience anybody at any of your fabulous properties that you've overstated. So I've had these thoughts in my mind. And as a kid, I read Shire, who wrote extensively about how did Hitler happen, because he was a reporter during all those war years. And I had all of that inside of me. And I have read Mein Kampf because I read that Winston Churchill read it. And he read it when nobody else in England was reading it. And he said, you should read his book and you'd find out he's going to do what he's doing and do not appease him. So we have too many public figures in positions to command cabining off this extremist dictator who is roaming around the United States and abusing our courtrooms and doing the kinds of things that nobody should allow to have happen. You cannot let people do things in violation of law and disrespect for the law and contravene our Constitution, violate it, try to steal an election, fail, and then run again, and nobody says, whoa, that's not going to happen. But that's where we are. We have to demand our judges, our prosecutors, our elected officials start standing up and stop playing it safe, because safe does not exist in this political context. Safe is when X years ago the system was working better. We have always been perfecting the American system. When Hillary Clinton ran, and they kept pummeling her every way possible, and anyone who shows faith ends up being attacked. You know, Kerry, when he ran for office, they did the swift boat attack on him. And so what they do is you don't actually have a real debate, you lie. But Trump has, if there's anybody who has turned our political system into a nightmare from which we cannot awake, borrowing from how Joyce said it, it is Trump. And when we don't push back and fight back, we're failing. Lincoln said at one point that if one is attacked, you have to answer it. And why? Because silence is acquiescence. Passivity is acquiescence. A judge in the civil court in New York shouldn't be saying it doesn't matter, he's going to lose anyway because I am the fact finder and I'm going to decide. That's not what Trump is doing. Trump doesn't care if he's convicted of everything, if he can win the vote and take over the office again and then wash all this away with the power of the presidency misapplied and abused to his personal ends. I think most people understand this about Trump, but what they don't understand is how real this is. And when I talked about a power vacuum and they attack Biden, what they're really doing is they're putting other players on the field to decrease the margins and to make more dangerous the possibility of Trump winning. Because Trump, what does he get? 30 or 40 points. So he has to, in the battleground states, get a plurality, run the electoral college, and try to get in again. That's his game. He can't command the votes nationwide. And that's why he lost to Hillary in the popular vote. And that's what his game continues to be. And you can be sure that every trick and every nasty thing that can be done, he will do, though he's charging that others are going to do it. So I know I've been on my soapbox a little bit, and I haven't drilled down to the details, but I think you know the details. But the one question is, what is our spirit in this circumstance? What is our fighting spirit? What is the spirit of America now? The spirit of America should be, no, stop. Enough is enough. We're not allowing this to happen anymore. And our friends in the media, they have to play their part, because this is no joke. Hitler did this with the media in Germany, and Trump is doing it with the media in America. And people who walk too tenderly on these comparisons are missing the truth. And Democrats who just hope things will be as they should be and were once before, it's a different game. The game doesn't stop. If there was a criticism of Clinton, it was that there was a time before Clinton in which there was a time to campaign and a time to govern. That's eliminated. Campaigning is incessant all the time. And when Republicans are saying that voters don't count, as they are in Ohio saying that because they don't like the resolution that was passed, You're hearing a truth. You're hearing what Republicans really believe. So when you think your vote matters, don't vote Republican. Vote Democrat. I don't care if the Republican is running for dog catcher in your area. You do not vote for him, because every step up the ladder of success in our electoral process empowers an individual who seeks to compromise you. They seek to compromise you in terms of your ability to control your own body, retirement, medical health, children's food, people who are insecure in terms of food, insecure in terms of having a home to live in. And that's what's at risk. And, people from election to election, this is the most serious election. Well, we've had a couple. And see, the contract with Biden, if people didn't understand it, was that he would get rid of Trump. And he did that. That was his first step. And this next election, he's going to keep Trump out of that office if he happens to be nominated. Ask yourself, what kind of party indicts a fella, nominates a fella who's been indicted in 4 different indictments and is compromising the American dream? What are we fighting about in the House? We can't decide how to pass a spending bill to keep the government open. What are we talking about in the House and Senate? We can't agree how we're going to help those people who are in war settings. And we're talking about what's happening in Israel, Palestine, and we're also talking about what's happening in Ukraine. And now we're talking about what's happening in Syria. And if we don't find a way to peace, and some people call me an appeaser for saying that, if we don't find an enforceable way to peace, this could erupt in world war. And that's not a joke. And then that gives the power, should the military power be reserved to Trump rather than Biden, that's a dangerous place. So I'm sorry if I went on, but I don't know how we can scream loud enough to say to people, this is really important. The notion that a man could take an oath and it mean nothing to him is not acceptable. But equally unacceptable is that we don't do anything about it. If you read as I glanced at the Federalist Papers again, and it's very interesting because the Federalist Papers talk about impeachment and the motivations of men and how do you regulate a government and so on and so forth. More of our elected officials should read those papers and should read the anti-Federalist papers and should read the Constitution and understand the purpose of the law and understand that if we are not embracing the laws that were written in a representative government, in a republic that acknowledges the representation of people for jurisdictions and precincts all across America, then we're not America anymore. We have, clicked. How could anybody be caught like they were when Hitler came to power or Mussolini? How could that happen? It happens because people don't act. It happens because they say, it's not a big deal. It's not going to last. It's lasting. It's lasted some time. So I want to thank you for listening. But to the extent that you can, tell your friends, tell your elected representatives, vote. Do whatever it is you can, however small it is. Because as Bobby Kennedy spoke about tiny rivulets of water combining across a vast expanse to bring down tyranny and to bring with it justice where injustice dwelled. So I thank you for your attention, and tomorrow I'll see you on the road probably. Bye-bye.